Evan was still smiling when he called me an embarrassment. He had one hand around the Banquet microphone and the other resting on the back of his mother's chair. 200 guests sat beneath the chandeliers of the Metropolitan Club, all polished silver and white roses, while rain darkened the shoulders of my navy suit. "Honestly, Nora," he said, letting his gaze drop to my scuffed portfolio, "you couldn't make an effort for one night?" Celeste's smile barely moved. Across the stage, the host paused beside the awards table. "Actually, before we continue, there seems to be another Bellweather document here." He lifted my project file. I saw the green fern seal on the cover and forgot the cold water inside my shoes. Evan laughed. "That can't be hers." The host opened it. Evan's laugh stopped. He recognized the seal. He recognized my drawings. And clipped inside the front cover, he recognized the letter addressed to Nora Mercer, principal consultant. I stayed perfectly still because Celeste's silver clutch lay open on the table beside her, and hanging over its edge was my green glass key. 6 months earlier, that key had lived in the blue ceramic bowl by our front door. The bowl was one of those things Evan teased me about until he needed it. He would toss his wallet onto the kitchen counter, leave his keys in yesterday's pants, then call from the stairs, "Nora, have you seen my life?" "Your life is under the takeout menu." "Marry someone observant," he would say, finding it exactly where I said. "Best decision I ever made." On a Thursday in March, I came home to find his mother's camel coat hanging from my brass hook and 12 strangers drinking Sauvignon Blanc in my studio. For a moment, I thought I had walked into the wrong house. My glassed-in room ran along the back of our narrow brick home, with tall windows facing a postage stamp of a yard. I kept material samples stacked under the work table, plans in flat drawers, and a long corkboard covered with photographs of rusted iron ribs and broken green panes. That afternoon, the samples had been shoved against the wall. My tracing paper had been rolled backward. Someone had placed a sweating wine bucket on top of a century-old site survey. Celeste stood beside my desk in cream trousers, introducing a council donor to a florist. "Nora," she said brightly, as if I had arrived at her invitation, "you're early." "It's my house." The donor looked down at his wine. Celeste gave a little laugh. "And thank goodness, because we're nearly out of ice." I moved the bucket off the survey. A wet ring remained. "Who are these people?" "The Banquet Planning Committee. Evan didn't tell you?" That question was one of Celeste's favorite tools. It blamed Evan just enough to keep her hands clean and blamed me for not being important enough to inform. "I'll get a towel," I said. In the kitchen, I found Evan cutting limes with the small knife he once claimed was too delicate to use. He grinned when he saw me. "Surprise. You gave your mother a key?" His grin weakened. "Just for today. There are people putting drinks on my work. They're preservation people. They probably understand paper." "Paper? You know what I mean." I took the dish towel from the oven handle. "No, explain it." Evan glanced toward the studio. His voice dropped. "Mom's condo lounge had a pipe burst. She needed a place for the committee meeting. She has a dining room. For 6 people, there are 12. There are conference rooms. They cost money. So does replacing an original survey." He set the knife down carefully. Evan was handsome when he was irritated, which was one of nature's meaner jokes. His face became calmer as everyone else's blood pressure rose. "It's 3 hours, Nora. They're planning the most important professional event of my year. Could you try not to make this hostile?" I looked past him. Through the kitchen doorway, Celeste had pinned a florist's color card over a photograph of Bellweather's east transept. "Did she ask you for the key, or did you offer?" His pause answered first. "She asked," he said. "I said yes. And you didn't ask me. I didn't think I needed written authorization to let my mother into our home. My studio isn't a coat closet. I know that. Do you?" The sharpness in my voice made him look toward the door again. He hated public discomfort, even when the public couldn't hear it. "Please," he said, "not tonight." It wasn't night. It was 4:20 in the afternoon. I wiped the survey, carried my laptop upstairs, and worked from the edge of our bed while laughter floated through the heating vent. At 7, Celeste called up that there was extra goat cheese if I wanted some. At 7:15, a committee member opened our bedroom door looking for the bathroom. By 8, they were gone. The studio smelled like perfume, wine, and cut eucalyptus. 3 of my sample labels had peeled away where someone had spilled water. A brass corner from my scale model sat bent on the floor. Evan came in carrying 2 plates. Peace offering. He held one out. Tiny crab cake? I stared at him. Okay, hostile crab cake. Despite myself, I almost laughed. That was another of Evan's gifts. He could make tenderness arrive wearing the same shoes as avoidance, and for years I had accepted the whole outfit. He put the plates down and saw the bent brass. I'll fix that. With what? Optimism and pliers. It's part of the Bellweather model. I know. What is Bellweather? He leaned against my work table. The greenhouse project at conservatory. Right. I waited. He looked at the photographs on my corkboard, buying time. We'd been married 6 years. I had driven 2 hours through sleet to retrieve a limestone sample he forgot before his first major client presentation. I knew the name of the vendor who overcharged him for dumpsters, and the exact face he made when a bid number frightened him. He could not remember the name of the project I had discussed at dinner for almost 2 years. The Bellweather Conservatory, I said. Opened in 1912, closed 14 years ago. The city is reviewing demolition bids in September. Right, Bellweather. You thought it was called the Greenhouse Project. I'm tired, Nora. I sent you the feasibility draft. And I looked at it. What was the estimated percentage of salvageable glazing? He rubbed his thumb over a scratch in the table. Is this a quiz? No. It feels like a quiz. It's not. I'm trying to find out what you mean when you say you looked at my work. He sighed. I skimmed it. The week was insane. That was November. November was also insane. I picked up the bent brass corner. Every week at Mercer Contracting is insane because I spend Sunday nights correcting whatever happened Monday through Friday. That's not fair. Which part? The part where you act like I don't value you because I don't know 1% from a 100-page report. 43. What? 43% of the original glazing can be salvaged. He nodded as if I had supplied an answer he could use later. That's good. It is. And I'm proud of you. The words landed with no more weight than the paper napkin under the crab cake. I turned back to the desk and saw a clear crescent on the wood. Where's my key? What key? The studio key. It was on the hook by the door. Mom probably still has it. You said you gave her a house key. It's the same ring. The key ring held a piece of pale green glass smooth at the edges with the Bellweather fern stamped in black enamel. Mara Ruiz had introduced me to a glass worker who made it from a pane removed after a windstorm. I had shown it to Evan the night I brought it home. Then call her. Nora. Call her and ask her to bring it back. It's 8:30. She lives 11 minutes away. She's probably exhausted. So am I. He stared at me, not angry yet. He was calculating the cost of each possible loyalty. I'll get it tomorrow, he said. Tonight. Why are you turning a simple favor into a loyalty test? I didn't turn it into one. He picked up his plate. I'm not driving across town because my mother forgot to return a key. You don't have to. I'll go. That made him angrier than asking him to go. If I retrieved it myself, Celeste would hear the accusation in the doorbell. Fine, he said. I'll call her. He carried both plates out. 10 minutes later, he returned without looking at me. She'll bring it to brunch Sunday. It's Thursday. She has appointments tomorrow, and Saturday she's at the hotel. She can leave it in her mailbox. She said she needs to get back in here Saturday morning. I looked up. Why? She left some folders. There were no folders. I had already cleaned the entire room. Evan. She may have said she's bringing folders. I don't remember the exact wording. What is happening Saturday? He made the mistake of glancing toward the empty wall beside my corkboard. I followed his eyes. She wants to test the backdrop, he said, for Banquet photos. No, it'll take an hour. No, she already booked the photographer. Then she can photograph it somewhere else. He put his hands on his hips. Do you understand that half the people in this committee can send work to my company? Do you understand that you're volunteering my workplace without asking? Our workplace. I stared at him. He heard it too late. I mean, our house. You said workplace. You're twisting one word. Do you work in this room? Sometimes. When? I've taken calls in here. You took a call in the yard last summer. Is the yard your office? His mouth tightened. Everything doesn't need to become a courtroom. No, it just needs to become mine after you've finished needing it. He left before he said something worse, which he considered restraint. I locked the studio from the inside and slept badly beside him. On Friday morning, Evan acted as if the argument had completed itself while we slept. He made coffee, kissed the top of my head, and asked whether I could check a concrete estimate before 10. The estimate sat beside my mug, 48 pages clipped in 3 sections. You have a bid, manager, I said. Grants at a site. You have an estimator. Leo did the numbers. Then why am I checking them? Because you catch things. He said it warmly, admiringly, as if my competence were a beautiful lamp that belonged in the house. I have a call at 9. It won't take long. It never takes long when it's my time. He pulled out the chair across from me. We're in the final 3 for the Larkin facade. If we land it, I can hire another coordinator. That takes pressure off both of us. Both of us. The firm paid him. The firm paid Grant and Leo and a receptionist named Dana who ordered salads that cost $19. The firm had never paid me. What would my title be? I asked. He blinked. What? If I'm part of us. What's my title? You have your consultancy. What's my title at Mercer? You don't need a title. You're my wife. He smiled, waiting for me to understand that he meant it as something larger. I slid the estimate back across the table. I can't do it this morning. His smile disappeared. Nora, I need you. I know. That was the first time refusing him felt less like punishment than information. At 11, I drove to Bellweather. The conservatory stood at the edge of an old city park behind temporary fencing silvered by rain. Its central dome had lost so many panes that clouds moved visibly through the iron ribs. Moss climbed the brick foundation. The west wing smelled of wet soil, even though nothing had been planted there in years. Mara Ruiz was waiting inside in a hard hat and red rain jacket. You're late, she said. 4 minutes. Rain respects no consultant. You've used that line before. It gets better each time. Mara ran Ruiz Restoration, a firm Evan described as excellent when he wanted her pricing and impossible when she questioned his schedules. 2 years earlier, he had tried to keep her off an approved vendor list after a hotel project ran late. I found the emails proving his superintendent had changed the delivery date and quietly made sure the property manager saw them. Mara never thanked me. She just started answering my calls. We walked the east transept, stepping around buckets placed beneath active leaks. She examined a corroded joint while I photographed it. You're still carrying Mercer's estimate? She asked. For the preliminary model. That wasn't my question. I lowered the camera. Evan's firm has historical masonry experience. Evan's firm has Evan. He's good at what he does. So are vending machines. I don't ask one to restore a conservatory. I laughed before I could stop myself. Mara pointed at me with her flashlight. There, you needed that. My studio hosted a wine committee yesterday. Condolences. My mother-in-law still has the key. Change the lock. It's not that simple. It's 4 screws. I looked through a surviving green pane. Rain bent the park beyond it into soft, wavering shapes. Mara's voice lost its edge. The screws are simple. The rest is why you haven't done it. My phone rang. Celeste. I let it ring twice before answering. Nora, she said, breathless with manufactured urgency. I'm standing in your studio and I cannot find the outlet dimensions anywhere. I gripped the green glass fob attached to the temporary Bellweather gate key. "You're in my house?" Evan said it was fine. The carpenter can only stay 20 minutes. "What carpenter?" There was a pause, followed by the metallic snap of a tape measure. Behind Celeste, a man said, "So this whole wall comes out?" Celeste lowered her voice. "For the client lounge, sweetheart." Evan promised he'd explained. "Put him on the phone. Nora, don't be dramatic. Put the carpenter on." Mara stopped examining the window joint and watched me. Celeste muffled the phone against something. I heard a murmur. Then a man said, "Hello? What's your name?" "Tom Bender." "Mr. Bender, I'm Nora Mercer. You're standing in my workspace. I did not authorize any construction or measuring." "Oh." His voice changed. "Mrs. Mercer told me you and your husband were renovating." "We're not. Please pack up." Celeste came back on the line. "You have embarrassed me in front of a contractor. Leave my house. We are trying to help Evan build something." "So am I. I'm standing in it." I ended the call. Mara raised one eyebrow. 4 screws. "Don't." I didn't say anything. "You said 2 words. Very efficient words." I shoved my camera into its case. "I have to go." "Your inspection notes?" "I'll finish them tonight." "No, you won't. Tonight you'll fight with your husband, then feel guilty for fighting with your husband, then fix something for his company so he remembers you're useful." Her accuracy felt invasive. "You don't know my marriage." "Correct. I know your work. Your work changes whenever he has an emergency." I slung the case over my shoulder. Mara held out her hand. "Give me the camera card." "Why?" "I'll upload the joint photos. You can get them later." "You don't have to." "I'm aware." That was the closest Mara came to kindness when she thought kindness might be refused. I handed it over and drove home through steady rain. Tom Bender's white van was gone by the time I arrived. Celeste's Lexus remained at the curb. She was standing in the kitchen, calmly rinsing wine glasses that had already been washed. "You hung up on me." "You entered my house after I told Evan you couldn't." "He gave me permission." "He doesn't get to give you permission to remodel my studio." "Our family has always shared space. You don't share yours. If you needed my dining room, you would have it. I don't need your dining room. Then the offer costs me nothing. How generous." She turned off the faucet. Celeste had a way of becoming more composed as a conversation became uglier. Her lipstick stayed perfect. Her voice became soft enough that anyone entering midway would assume she was calming me down. "Evan needs a proper place to meet clients," she said. "He's been working 6 years to move past kitchen table jobs. He rents an office in a building with a tire shop on one side and a pet crematory on the other. The pet crematory has excellent landscaping." "This is serious." "So is my work." She glanced toward the studio. "Your projects are beautiful. I've always said that." "You call them my projects because you can't remember what I do." "I know precisely what you do. You arrange the details other people overlook." It sounded almost respectful until the sentence settled. "Where's my key?" Her hand moved toward the pocket of her trousers. "Nora, it's practical for me to have one. Evan travels. You travel. What if there's an emergency?" "There was an emergency. You brought a carpenter." She took out the ring. The green glass lay across her palm, its fern seal dulled by the kitchen light. "I think you're reacting to being surprised," she said. "I'm reacting to being overruled in my own room." "You're married. There is no own room." I held out my hand. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she dropped the ring into my palm. "You're forcing Evan to choose between his wife and his mother." "No. I'm asking him to choose between a client lounge and my work. To you, perhaps those are different." She collected her handbag from the counter. At the front door, she paused beside the blue bowl. "That piece of glass is very pretty," she said. "It looks sharp." After she left, I locked the door and sat on the bottom stair with the key in my fist. At 5:30, Evan texted that he was stopping at the Larkin site. At 6:15, he said traffic was terrible. At 7:40, he walked in carrying a grocery store bouquet and a paper bag from the Thai place I liked. "Before you say anything," he said, "I come bearing noodles." "You promised her my studio. He lowered the flowers." I said we could explore the idea. "You sent a carpenter." She sent a carpenter. "Because you told her to measure it." I told her measurements wouldn't hurt. "Do you hear yourself?" He set the food on the hall table. I was trying to imagine a way this house could work better for both of us. "The studio works for me. And where do I bring a client if I want to show them something privately?" "Your office." "My office is embarrassing." "Then rent a better one." "That's easy to say when you don't have 8 people depending on your overhead." I looked at the flowers. Yellow tulips still wrapped in plastic. He had remembered I liked yellow and forgotten I hated tulips because they collapsed in a day. The carpenter said the whole wall was coming out. "That was Mom's idea, and you didn't stop it." I hadn't agreed to it. "You hadn't told her no." He dragged a hand through his hair. "Why does every imperfect conversation become evidence against me?" "Because your imperfect conversations have contractors." "I was going to talk to you." "When?" "Tonight. You expected me to agree after it was measured." "I expected you to hear the benefits." "For whom?" "For us." I laughed once. It had no humor in it. Evan looked toward the studio door. "The banquet committee has connections. If they see what Mercer Contracting can do in a space like this, what can Mercer Contracting do in here?" He stopped. The room had been mine before the company existed. I had designed the shelving, sourced the reclaimed brick, negotiated with the glazier, and hired Mara's crew to stabilize the windows. Evan had painted one door badly on a Sunday afternoon. He tried another direction. "You know I respect what you do." "What do I do?" "Don't start that again." "What do I do, Evan?" "You're a project consultant." "For what kind of projects?" "Architecture, restoration. You coordinate." I waited. His jaw worked. "Bellweather," he said finally. "What about it?" "It's a conservatory. A day ago, that might have counted as progress. Now it sounded like he had studied for a test he resented taking." I put the green glass key in the blue bowl. "I'm changing the studio lock." "That's ridiculous." "It's 4 screws." His face flickered with confusion at the phrase, but he was too angry to ask. "And I'm not reviewing the Larkin estimate." "Nora, that bid is due Monday." "Then Leo should finish it. Leo's numbers are a mess. You employ him." "I employ him to build the estimate." "You catch inconsistencies." "Then employ me." The words sat between us. Evan looked at me as though I had requested money for kissing him goodbye. "You want me to put you on payroll?" "If I'm essential to your bids." "It's our company." "No, it's Mercer Contracting, LLC. You are the sole member. Grant and Leo get salaries. Dana gets health insurance. I get noodles." His eyes went toward the paper bag. "That's cheap." "It was supposed to be." "We've always shared everything." "Show me the account." "What account?" "The company operating account. If it's ours, show it to me." "You know I can't casually expose payroll information." "I've seen the payroll information. I corrected the withholding spreadsheet in January." "That was different." "Because you needed me." He walked into the kitchen and opened a cabinet, then shut it without taking anything. I followed him. "How much did the Larkin client pay for the preliminary survey?" "Why?" "I wrote half of it. You helped edit it." "I wrote the conditions section, the accessibility notes, and the phased schedule. Under my company." "Yes. That's how married people build things together." "No, that's how one person builds something and another person invoices it." His expression hardened. "Are you accusing me of stealing from you?" I wanted to say yes. The word was ready. But theft was too clean for what had happened between us. Thieves knew the thing belonged to someone else. "I'm saying the arrangement is over." He stared at me. "The studio stays mine," I continued. "Your mother doesn't get a key, and if your company needs my work, I send an invoice before I start." "What happened to being partners?" I asked for a title. You said wife. That wasn't an insult. It was an answer. He slept in the guest room that night, though he made a performance of taking only his pillow, as if one of us might call him back before he reached the hall. In the morning, I went to the hardware store. The clerk sold me a brass cylinder with 2 keys and talked me through the installation twice. I replaced the studio lock myself. The old key, with its pretty green glass, no longer opened anything in the house. I kept it on the ring anyway. Evan stood in the doorway while I tested the new lock. Are you trying to make me feel unwelcome? I'm trying to know who can enter my workspace. I live here. So do I. He left without coffee. The Larkin bid went out Monday afternoon. At 5:11, Dana called my cell. I'm not asking you to fix anything, she said quickly. Good. I'm only asking if you happen to remember whether Larkin required alternates in the base price form or as an attachment. You should ask Leo. I did. And he said attachment. Then use an attachment. There was a pause. You always said attachments disappear, Dana said. I closed the Bellweather drainage spreadsheet on my screen. What does the request for proposal say? I'm looking at it. Then follow it. Another pause. Evan said you were taking a break. From what? Helping. The word was so small and accurate that I almost felt sorry for it. I'm working on my own deadline. Bellweather? I leaned back. You remember the name? You made me look at 47 pictures of cracked windows at the holiday dinner. That was 6 pictures. It felt like a loving 47. I smiled despite myself. Dana lowered her voice. For what it's worth, the dome is gorgeous. Thank you. After the call, I drafted my first formal invoice for Mercer Contracting. It included the unpaid conditions report and accessibility review from the Larkin survey, billed at the same hourly rate Evan had once approved for an outside consultant. I stared at the total for 20 minutes before sending it. Evan came home with the printed invoice folded into quarters. $6,800? That's the discounted total. You invoiced your own husband. I invoiced Mercer Contracting. For work you did 3 months ago. The client paid for it 4 months ago. We use that money for household expenses. We use my consulting income for household expenses. Larkin paid your company. Our mortgage came out of the joint account, mostly funded by me in January, February, and March, because the company was carrying receivables. I know. I track them. He unfolded the invoice and flattened it on the counter. This is punitive. It's itemized. You expect me to write you a check? I expect you to decide whether my work had value. He looked at the total again. I can't pull this out of operating cash right now. Then propose a payment schedule. Listen to us. Payment schedules? Invoices? Is this what you want our marriage to sound like? No, it's what your company sounds like. He left the invoice on the counter. 3 days later, Mercer Contracting paid the first installment. The money felt less triumphant than I expected. It felt like seeing the depth marker painted on the side of a pool after I was already in the water. I moved my consulting income into an individual business account and calculated the household split. Evan objected to my percentages, then objected more when I offered to calculate them by income instead. We settled on half because he preferred unfairness he could call equal. Celeste responded by becoming helpful. She sent Evan home with casseroles. She arranged for her housekeeper to press his Banquet shirts. She stopped calling me directly and began asking questions in a group text, so my silence would look conspicuous. Have we decided on the studio backdrop? Evan answered. Not using the studio. A minute later, she wrote, Understood. I only want what is best for you both. That evening, she arrived with a lemon tart and addressed me with the careful warmth usually reserved for someone recovering from a public incident. I hope the lock gives you peace of mind, she said. It does. Evan tells me you're drawing up a proposal for Bellweather. Not just drawing. The council opened submissions for the restoration partnership. Her serving knife stopped halfway through the tart. The Metropolitan Council? Yes. The same council hosting the banquet? The same council. She looked at Evan. And Mercer Contracting will be attached? We've provided preliminary numbers, he said. I watched his face. 2 years ago. They're still the basis of your feasibility estimate. They'll need to be updated. He smiled as if we were discussing weather. Of course. Celeste placed a narrow piece of tart on my plate. These applications are extremely competitive. I know. They tend to favor established teams. I know. Then it's fortunate you have Evan. He looked down at his plate, but the corner of his mouth moved. Approval embarrassed him less when it arrived from his mother. I put my fork down. Mercer Contracting isn't on the application yet. The corner of his mouth disappeared. Celeste said, "Surely you wouldn't take a family project to a stranger." It isn't a family project. Bellweather has consumed your evenings for 2 years. Evan has certainly paid part of that cost. So have I, he said. The speed of it hurt more than the sentence. You paid for Bellweather? The household supported you while you worked. I billed clients while I worked, at a reduced load, so I could keep correcting your bids. Celeste touched her napkin to her lips. This is becoming transactional. It became transactional when a carpenter measured my wall. Evan pushed his chair back. Can we have one meal? Yes, I said. We can have tart. I ate the whole piece. The application took shape over the next month. I rebuilt the occupancy model, met with park staff, and persuaded 3 local event operators to share real booking numbers. Mara reviewed my phasing schedule in silence, crossing out entire paragraphs with a thick black pen. Too pretty, she said. It's a grant narrative. It's a promise. Pretty promises cost more. I rewrote it. Evan became gentler as the deadline approached. He made dinner twice. He asked intelligent questions about stormwater capacity. One Sunday, he sat in the studio doorway while I worked and handed me coffee without entering. I miss you, he said. I looked at him over the rim of the mug. I know I handled the room badly. The room. The key. Mom. All of it. I waited for an apology. He rubbed his palms together. I want to fix this. What does fix look like? Mercer comes on to Bellweather as construction partner. You lead the project. We present it together. There it was, an offer shaped exactly like the original problem, softened until I might mistake it for love. What would my title be? Director of Project Development, employee or owner. We can work out compensation after award. No, his face changed. I'm submitting independently, I said. I'll solicit a verified estimate from your firm and 2 others. 2 others? That's standard. After everything I've put into this? I set down the mug. What have you put into Bellweather? He stood. Use another contractor, he said. Evan. No, you want everything formal? Fine. Mercer Contracting is formally withdrawing its preliminary estimate. You no longer have permission to use our numbers, our vendor assumptions, or our name. The application deadline was 11 days away. He walked out, and this time he pulled the studio door shut behind him. For several seconds, I listened to his footsteps cross the kitchen. A cabinet opened, glass touched the counter, the refrigerator hummed into the silence. Then I called Mara. She answered with machinery roaring behind her. If this is about paint colors, I'm hanging up. Mercer withdrew the estimate. The machinery cut off. When? 30 seconds ago. Deadline? 11 days. How much of the proposal depends on his numbers? All of it. That's not an answer. Construction estimate, phasing, contingencies, operating model, funding request. So all of it. Yes. Send me the current package. Mara. Send it. I'll tell you whether you're dead. She hung up. I emailed the files and sat at my desk waiting for a verdict on the viability of 2 years of my life. In the kitchen, Evan moved around with exaggerated normality. He ran water. He opened the back door. At one point, he laughed at something on his phone. Mara called 43 minutes later. You're not dead, she said. You are vain. That's encouraging. The rooftop edition goes. It generates 20% of the projected event revenue. It consumes 31% of the first phase construction budget. It gives them a skyline view. The roof already gives them a skyline view. You want to charge people to stand on it. It distinguishes the venue. The building is a glass dome from 1912. If people need a cocktail deck to notice it, let them get married at an airport hotel. I turned to the page with the rooftop plans. What else? Your east service corridor is too wide. Your mechanical allowance is optimistic, and you're carrying custom replicas where stock profiles will do. The replicas match the original Muntins. From 20 feet away, so does green paint. I winced. You asked for an estimate, she said. I'm not composing a love letter. Can you verify it by the deadline? No. My stomach dropped. I can verify a smaller project, she continued, if you get me revised drawings in 48 hours and pay for the rush review. How much? She told me. It was nearly everything in my consultancy account after taxes and the next mortgage payment. Not a disaster, not comfortable, a choice. If the council rejects it, I don't get that back, I said. That is how invoices work. I looked through the studio windows. In the dark, my reflection floated over the yard. Do it. I worked until 3 a.m, slept at my desk for 90 minutes, then cut the rooftop edition from Bellweather. Deleting it took 1 keystroke. Repairing everything the deletion changed took 2 days. The event projections shrank. The funding structure shifted. The circulation plan improved in ways I resented. Mara sent a foreman to measure the service wing, brought in an engineer she trusted, and made me defend every contingency line on a video call where she ate pistachios and said, "Prove it." So often I began hearing it after she stopped speaking. Evan and I moved around each other like people sharing a waiting room. He left food in the refrigerator with my name written on the containers. I moved his business mail from the kitchen counter to the hall table. He slept in the guest room without announcing it now. Twice I woke to find the studio light reflected in the glass door and saw him standing outside, looking in. He didn't knock. On the 4th day, Dana called. "Do you have a minute?" Barely. Evan asked me to pull every Bellweather document from the shared drive. My hand stopped over the keyboard. There shouldn't be Bellweather documents on the company drive. There are 3 folders. I knew exactly how they had gotten there. I had drafted early feasibility notes on Mercer's office laptop while mine was being repaired. What did he ask you to do with them? Archive them and send him a link. Did you? I archived them. And the link? I accidentally sent him a link to an empty folder. I leaned back. Dana exhaled. I don't want to be in your marriage. You're not. I'm in his payroll system, and lately that feels close. Why are you telling me? Because he asked whether the files showed that Mercer originated the project. What did you say? That the document properties show your name. I closed my eyes. He's scared, Dana said. Larkin rejected the bid. Because of the alternates? They said our submission was non-responsive. I thought of the request for proposal open on Dana's screen and my refusal to tell her where to put one form. I'm sorry. Are you? Yes? Me too, a little? She lowered her voice. But I'm also tired of everyone acting like the building caught fire because you stopped carrying water. After we hung up, I copied my dated drafts, original correspondence, and meeting notes into a separate archive. I hated myself for doing it. I hated him more for making it sensible. Celeste began making calls. I learned about them from a council coordinator named Priya Shah, who emailed to request clarification regarding potential overlap of authorship and contractor participation. The phrase was bloodless. The attached questions were not. Had Mercer Contracting commissioned the feasibility work? Had I used proprietary cost data without permission? Was I submitting a family business project as an independent consultancy? I called Priya. I can answer all of this in writing. That would be best. Can you tell me who raised the concern? I can tell you the council verifies any credible conflict brought to our attention. Credible? A quiet breath passed through the receiver. Detailed. Celeste knew just enough about my work to make doubt sound responsible. I submitted the first email where I had proposed Bellweather to the Parks Department, dated 5 months before Mercer created its preliminary estimate. I included my invoices from independent clients during the development period, the revision history, and the message where Evan wrote, "If you want to spend weekends crawling around a condemned greenhouse, that's your choice." That sentence hurt differently when formatted as evidence. Priya replied the next afternoon, "Thank you. The authorship issue is resolved. Please replace all Mercer cost data with independently verified figures before final submission." Mara's estimate arrived 6 hours before the deadline. It was higher than Evan's, more detailed, and far more embarrassing to my original plan. I printed it, spread it across the table, and found one multiplication error on page 14. I called her. "I was testing you," she said. "You multiplied 12 by 18 incorrectly. A difficult test. You owe me $3,000. I'll buy you a taco." I corrected the page, attached the verification, and submitted at 11:37 p.m. The council's portal displayed a small green check mark. I stared at it until the shape blurred. Evan was behind me. I hadn't heard him enter the studio. He stood just inside the door, holding the second key from the new lock. "How did you get that?" "You left the spare in the kitchen drawer. I left it in a sealed envelope. It's still in the envelope." The torn envelope protruded from his pocket. He looked at the confirmation screen. "You submitted?" "Yes." "With Ruiz?" "Yes." His face seemed older in the monitor light. "You really cut me out." "You withdrew." I was angry. So was I. I still met my deadline. "I thought you'd come talk to me." "You told me to use another contractor." "I didn't think you would." There was the marriage in one sentence. His words were weather. Mine were supposed to be furniture. He placed the key on my desk. "Mom shouldn't have called the council." I turned around. "You knew?" "Not until today." "What did she tell them?" "That Mercer had supported the project and you were hiding it to punish me." "Do you believe that?" "No." He answered quickly, maybe honestly. "Did you ask her to correct it?" "I told her to stay out of it." "That isn't the same thing." "What do you want me to do, Nora? Call 12 people and announce that my wife's project has nothing to do with me?" "Yes." He laughed softly, without amusement. "You have no idea what that will sound like." "I know exactly what it will sound like." He sat on the low cabinet beneath my material shelves. "I built that company because I wanted us to be secure." "I know." My father died owing money to everyone he knew. My mother spent years pretending the phone wasn't ringing because the people calling wanted to be paid. I wasn't going to live like that. I had heard pieces of this before, never assembled so plainly. "So you built a company," I said. "I built something with my name on it." "And when I tried to do the same?" His eyes moved to the confirmation screen. "I thought there was room for both of us," he said. "There was. You wanted mine, too." He rubbed his hands over his face. When he lowered them, his eyes were wet, though he would have called it exhaustion. "I can give you the title." "I don't want the title." "Equity, then. 10% to start." We put it in writing. A month earlier, the offer would have cracked me open. Would I have authority to decline work? We'd define roles. Could I stop your mother from using company events? That's not an ownership question. It's the only question. He stood. "Nothing I offer is enough because you've already decided what this means." "I'm still deciding." That was true, and it hurt both of us. He left the key on my desk. The council required one bound project copy for final technical review. I had it made at a print shop with the Bellweather fern embossed in green on the heavy gray cover. Priya instructed me to deliver it to the council office before the banquet, where final partnership selections would be announced. I told no one about the review outcome because I didn't have one. Celeste behaved as if restraint were an act of generosity. She stopped mentioning Bellweather and focused on the banquet. She called Evan about seating charts, cuff links, donor biographies, and the difference between ivory and winter white. Her life narrowed toward that room because she believed rooms could certify a person's worth if the right people were watching. 2 days before the event, Evan received word that Mercer Contracting would be recognized for its facade work on the Marlowe Hotel. "Mom will think it's bigger than it is," he told me. "Will you?" He gave me a tired smile. "Probably for 20 minutes. He asked me to attend with him. I don't know. You're still my wife. That wasn't a title last time. It isn't one now." I looked at him. "I mean, it's not only a title," he said. "I want you there." The morning of the banquet, heavy rain struck the damaged panes at Bellweather. Mara called to report water near the east electrical conduit. I drove over in work clothes, helped her crew secure plastic beneath the leak, then changed into my navy suit in the restroom of a coffee shop. When I got home, Evan and Celeste were gone. So was the bound project file from the hall table. The blue bowl sat empty. I called Evan. He didn't answer. Celeste did. "I brought your file," she said. Music and silverware sounded behind her. "Since you were determined to arrive looking rushed." "You took my key. I saved you a trip." "That wasn't permission." She sighed. "Nora, for once in your life, let someone help you." The line went dead. I drove to the Metropolitan Club with rain soaking through my cuffs, already certain Celeste had opened the file and still having no idea what she had found. The host turned the first page slowly. Behind him, the screen displayed Mercer Contracting's Marlowe Hotel facade. Evan's name glowed 15 feet tall above a photograph of cream stone and restored copper trim. The room had been arranged to give him exactly the moment Celeste wanted. The file in the host's hands gave it to me instead. He looked from the drawings to the letter clipped inside the cover. "Nora Mercer," he said. "Principal consultant." A murmur moved through the tables. Celeste's hand closed over her clutch, hiding part of the green glass. The host was Daniel Price, executive director of the council. I had met him once during a preliminary Bellweather walkthrough, though we had spoken for less than 5 minutes. He nodded at me now. I believe we were going to save this announcement for later, but the project seems determined to join us. A few people laughed. Evan didn't. Daniel turned toward the screen operator. The photograph of the Marlowe vanished. In its place appeared Bellweather's broken dome beneath a gray morning sky. "The council has selected the Bellweather Conservatory plan for its principal restoration partnership," Daniel said. The technical review praised its disciplined phasing, credible operating model, and unusually thorough documentation of original material. Mara, seated near the back with 2 contractors I recognized, lifted her water glass toward me. "Ms. Mercer," Daniel continued, "would you come up?" I couldn't move yet. Evan reached for my hand. I stepped away from him. It was a small movement. He looked down at the empty space between us as if it had opened without warning. Celeste leaned close. "Don't make a scene." I looked at her clutch. "My key. Not now. My key, Celeste." Daniel waited on stage. Every second stretched. She opened the clutch and took out the ring. "I brought your things because you left them lying around." I held out my hand. Her fingers tightened once around the green glass, then released it. The old key dropped into my palm. I closed my fist and walked to the stage. Daniel shook my hand. "You've had an eventful entrance." My east conduit had a worse evening. He smiled. "Then I'll keep this short." He asked whether I wanted to say anything. Behind him, Bellweather's dome filled the screen. Water stained its brickwork. Whole sections of glass were missing, revealing the clean black geometry of the ribs. I looked at Mara. "Thank you to the people who made me prove my numbers," I said. Mara called, "You're welcome." This time the laughter felt warm. I stepped away from the microphone before gratitude turned into performance. Daniel handed me the file. A green council ribbon had been slipped under the cover while it sat on the awards table. Celeste must have given it to one of the coordinators when she arrived. She had carried my work into the room intending to control it, then placed it in the only hands that knew exactly what it was. When I returned to the table, Evan's chair was empty. Celeste sat rigidly beside his untouched water glass. "You humiliated him," she said. "He had the microphone. You knew this was going to happen." "I didn't." "You expect me to believe they selected your project without informing you?" "That's how awards work. This isn't an award. It's a partnership." "Yes." Her eyes flicked toward the people around us. "Keep your voice down." I hadn't raised it. "You let him stand there praising you for a project Evan helped create." Evan withdrew his estimate. "Because you excluded his company." "Because I wouldn't give him my name." She pushed back her chair. "Everything you have done for the last 6 years was possible because my son gave you stability." I looked at the yellow tulips printed on the banquet program, the white roses on the table, the perfect silver line of her place setting. "I paid most of the mortgage this winter." Her face changed. Not because she cared who paid it, because the sentence threatened the story she used to explain us. "You've been keeping score," she said. "No, I finally read it." She stood, collected her clutch, and walked toward the lobby. I stayed through dinner. The food had gone cold during the presentation, but I ate the salmon anyway. Mara moved into Evan's empty chair and inspected the award materials between bites. "They misspelled Ruiz on the subcontractor list," she said. "Where?" She pointed. "They put an S. Barbarians. I'll correct it tomorrow. You'll correct it tonight." I laughed, then covered my mouth because the sound came out too close to crying. Mara pretended not to notice. She buttered a roll and said, "The council wants a revised mobilization schedule Monday." "Of course they do." "You have one? I have 4. Now you're learning." Evan was waiting in the hotel lobby when the banquet ended. He had removed his tie. Celeste was gone. "Can we talk at home?" he asked. "I'm going to Bellweather. It's almost 11. I left my work clothes there. Nora, please." People moved around us toward the coat check. A council member stopped to congratulate me, saw Evan's face, and kept moving after a quick nod. I shifted the project file under my arm. "We can talk tomorrow." "You didn't know?" "I told you I didn't." "I thought maybe that was why you came late, to make an entrance." "I came late because water was running toward an electrical conduit." He looked at the file. "I never said your work was bad." "You called me an embarrassment." I was angry. "You keep saying that as if anger makes your words temporary." His throat moved. "I saw you come in wet carrying that old portfolio, and Mom said you'd ignored every message. Everyone was looking at me. I felt like you wanted them to see that my night didn't matter to you." "It mattered. That's why I came. I know that now." "You knew it then." He looked away. The worst part was that I understood him. He had spent his adult life constructing rooms where no one could mistake him for the son of a man who left bills unanswered. My wet sleeves, my scuffed portfolio, and my refusal to play the polished wife had felt like a crack in the wall, so he had shoved me through it. "I want to go home," he said. "So do I." We drove separately. At the house, the yellow tulips had collapsed over the rim of their vase. Evan went into the kitchen. I carried the Bellweather file to the studio and locked it inside. When I returned, he had placed 2 glasses of water on the table. He sat across from me. "I'll call Daniel tomorrow," he said. "I'll tell him Mercer has no claim to the project." "Thank you. And I'll tell Mom she's done with the banquet committee. That's between you and her. I'm trying to show you I understand. You're still offering to manage her after she's done the damage. What do you want?" I looked at him for a long time. A separation. He pressed both hands flat against the table. "No, that isn't something you can veto. Counseling. Maybe during the separation. You said you were still deciding." I was. "And one bad night decided it?" "No, one honest night did." He stood so quickly the chair legs scraped the floor. "You win an award, and suddenly I'm beneath you. This is why I'm leaving." Because I'm upset? Because you can only understand me pulling away as a judgment of your value. He paced to the counter, then back. I offered you equity. After I stopped working for free. I offered to make you a partner. You offered 10% of something I was already holding up. That's not fair. It may not be. I don't know anymore. That's why we need space. His anger broke as suddenly as it had risen. He sat again and covered his face. I love you. I love you too. He lowered his hands. The words frightened him more than if I had denied it. Love had been his last argument, the one he thought should restore every privilege attached to it. My work, my money, my room, my silence at his mother's table. I touched the green glass in my pocket. You have to stay somewhere else for now. This is my home. It's mine, too. I'm not walking away from my studio on the night you called me an embarrassment for carrying my work into your banquet. He gave one short, broken laugh. Mom has a guest room. I know. He packed enough for a week. The week became a month. We met twice with a counselor and once with a mediator. Evan arrived at each appointment prepared to apologize and left frustrated that apologies did not reopen the studio, restore my unpaid work, or return his company's name to Bellweather. He paid the remaining balance on my Larkin invoice. Mercer Contracting did not collapse. It became the company it had actually been. Leo's estimates required outside review. Dana insisted on a raise after taking over proposal coordination, and when Evan refused, she accepted a job with another contractor. 2 bids went out late. A supplier placed the company on prepaid terms after invoices sat unanswered. Evan hired an operations manager at a salary larger than every invoice I had sent him. When he told me, I said, "Good." He looked almost offended. I wanted you to regret leaving, he admitted. I didn't leave your company. I was never in it. Celeste's banquet expenses arrived the following month. She had charged the floral retainer and favors to her own card after promising the committee that Mercer would reimburse her. Evan refused. She came to the house to speak with me. I met her on the front step. You're enjoying this, she said. No. Evan barely sleeps. I'm sorry. You could stop all of it. I leaned against the doorframe. You still think access is forgiveness. I think marriage requires sacrifice. Whose? Her expression cooled. You took my key, I said. You opened my drawers. You brought strangers into my room and a carpenter into my house. Every time I said no, you asked Evan for a different answer. He wanted a place in your life. He had one. I held out a small padded envelope. Inside were the earrings she had given me on our first anniversary, expensive and too heavy to wear. She looked at them, then at me. I don't want these. Neither do I. I closed the door gently. The separation agreement took 4 months. It was ordinary, specific, and painful. The house would be sold after Bellweather's first construction phase, giving me time to move my studio without jeopardizing the project. We divided furniture, accounts, and debts. Evan asked for the blue ceramic bowl. I gave it to him. Bellweather took 14 months to restore. The rooftop addition never returned. Mara found stock window profiles that matched the surviving frames closely enough to satisfy the council and closely enough to annoy me for being right. The east service corridor became a catering passage. The repaired dome held through its first spring storm. On the afternoon before the first evening event, I walked through the conservatory alone. The brick floor still carried faint stains from decades of soil beds. New panes alternated with preserved glass, clear beside rippled, so the sunlight broke differently from one section to the next. My project table stood beneath the east transept. Beside it was a brass hook. I took the old green glass fob from my pocket. The key attached to it opened nothing now. I hung it on the hook, then added the new Bellweather building key. Across the table, fern-shaped light moved over the open plans. I placed my hand in it and stayed perfectly still.